Hi, my name is Andrew Stocken, and this is my presentation for the job planning dashboard for DAT F5001. So our task was to create a dashboard that would help our clientele with trying to work out the percentages of our job plans. So we started off with an introduction page, which would give a brief introduction of what a job plan is and why it's important to do so. This would then be sent out to the directorates and our end users to actually manipulate and use this dashboard throughout. So what we will find as we go along is it's interactive. Essentially, a job plan is a contractual agreement that plans out their working pattern and how they're going to effectively use their time. This is the doctors, consultant level and SES. So we're going to look at the dashboard that we created. And we did this by using a variety of graphs and tables to pick out different aspects. So the first aspect that we wanted to pick out was generally, what is the split between the different grades that we have, so consultant and SES. And we can see here that September was going to be our baseline information. So starting off at the beginning of this 4-month period that we were working to, we had a just under 40% consultant level and SAS was 16%. And we chose a gauge graph because it clearly sees in a nice, easy to read thing where we're sitting and how much we need to improve. The tree map, which is this table here, shows us where is going really well using the RAG system. So we can see Wales is by using size, colour and position. We can see that Wales is our most completed, but it is also our biggest area, hence the size. We then can look at our bottom 4 examples, and we can see here that Tunisia, Canada, Iceland, and Brazil are our lowest areas. So these are areas that we feel like we probably should target. And again, so this gives us a quick, easy to read idea of what needs to be targeted versus what is doing well. So we can celebrate and try and improve and using the same grade map. Following on from this, using the same kind of principle of countries, we can have a look at this map. And we can see here that actually, though Tunisia is an issue, if we look at it as a whole, Africa is showing a lot of red areas. So rather, it may not be just a Tunisia issue, it may be a geographical issue of Africa as a whole. And this needs to be explored. The same with South America as well, and Brazil being one of our lowest areas. Meanwhile, what we can see is that Europe and Asia seem to be doing very well in the greens, and so therefore, though we will be looking to improve those, they are of a lower priority. Then we decided to look at it via directorates, whether it was a particular directorate that's actually having issues rather than geographical or grade issues. So we can see here the grey representing in discussion, so those that we need to look at, and the blue showing that it's signed off. Blue and grey were used to kind of move away from this good and bad look, which is what the other two did, and just look at pure facts. It also is relatively easy on the eyes. So we can see here that primary and community is our smallest area, and with the blue representing our sign-off, we can see that actually there's very little sign-off there. Meanwhile, with our planned care, we can see that actually, though it's our biggest area and the peak of the sign-offs is the highest, that proportion ratio shows that it's only about 50% sign-off, and actually this is an area that we need to focus on. And lastly then, the dashboard had a rolling calculation of where each of the divisions were sitting. The colours were chosen for each directorate to represent their home colours. These colours are used in other reports as well. So the planned care know that their colour is a kind of a teal colour, and so therefore they will look for that instinctively. Same with unscheduled care, etc. And what we can see here is this baseline line. So as the months went on, more and more of these headings got added. So as we enter October, you can see that we did our interventions, which included one-to-one and group training sessions to try and improve this kind of understanding and compliance of the job plans meant that our consultant levels actually increased by a considerable amount. Our SES is unfortunately still trolling on behind. Wales is still our strongest country, but where Japan was the second biggest, now it's India, and we can sell by the position side of things. Meanwhile, we can also see from our lower right quadrant that our worst performing areas, actually, some of them have gone bigger, and only one remains now as our absolute struggling area, which seems to be Tunisia. So again, we will look at this more in a graph, as a map view, and we can see that our improvements, as Brazil has increased, actually now it's going into a much bigger zone, and actually the whole of South America, with our targeted approach of South America and South Africa, South America has actually improved considerably, enough that actually they're starting to show as a green. Meanwhile, Africa seems to be a problem. So we still don't know if Tunisia is actually a isolated incident or a country incident. So we will do further investigation into that. With our targeted approach as well, we can see that instantly the primary community has gone up to about 50% and plan care has increased to 75%. So we can see some progress there, which is really, really good and is helpful just for our statisticians to look at as well. Lastly then, with our sign off a month, you can see that the grey area is now covering that shift from September to October, and we can see the increases. And the whole point of using this grey area is to highlight what is happening in this period that we're looking at in the dashboard. So we can see here that most areas either increased, but we did have a couple of stagnant areas. So moving on then, we're knowing that we needed to focus on Africa, knowing that we needed to focus on a couple more areas. We kept on pushing and we kept on working on things. Unfortunately, this month it seemed to stagnate. Our percentages didn't really increase. Our sign off by country didn't actually increase, and we still have Tunisia as our lowest. We do have some increases in South Africa and some of the other areas. There were some decreases as well. But in general, everything is looking rather stagnant. There is, however, a big shift. Egypt has changed. So it's starting to look like actually it's not, Tunisia might not be a country problem. It might be an isolated problem. And America, we've got an outlier here, which is continuously being green, now suddenly showing as red. This is because of a issue that the way they do it over in America, and actually in particular one division, which we will notice in a second, we can see that here, using the bar graph, we can see our percentage has dropped in children and family. That's because they do all their job plans in one period. And so we can see that big drop there, and where they all fell out of compliance at the same time. So it's just a matter of reminding the USA, the Children and Family Department in the USA, to do their job plans. So we can see everything else is on the increase, even if it's just very slightly, with children and families decreasing. Again, it just helps explain this journey. Lastly then, we've got our December, and this is where we finished our project. And we can see that actually, finally, we have made some improvements. And so this is good moving forward. Our consultant levels have increased. Everything's the same. Tunisia is still our lowest. And actually now we can see that actually most of Africa now is showing. This gives us a zone to improve on. And we can see that our children and families and America has improved back. And that's where this unscheduled, and we can see some other growths as well. Unscheduled care has started to make improvements. Everything like that. So moving forward then, our plan is to keep on focusing on these areas, and what we found with the increase of unscheduled care is there is a sense of competitiveness, and so we plan to utilize this, and this is where graphs like the tree map will really shine, because actually this competitiveness will help us drive forward things. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. If there are any questions, please send me a message. Thank you.